Hello everybody, Anthony Gonzalez with another letter from our mailbag. This one comes from an AP government student, Liam. Liam had a lot of questions. I'll take three of them in no particular order. So first question, some in Washington and throughout the country, such as Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, have called for an increase in spending on ICE personnel and technology instead of building a wall. In the past, you have supported the idea of a border wall. What would your answer to this argument be? Great first question, Liam. So I think my answer would be both. So we absolutely need additional ICE personnel. We absolutely need technology at the border, but we also need barriers where our Border Patrol agents have requested them. The request that came in was for 234 miles in the 10 most dangerous areas, both for the Border Patrol agents and for those who are trying to cross our border. We absolutely need to secure that southern border, and I don't think we should think of it in terms of, is it this or this? I like to think of it as choosing from a menu of options, all with the goal of securing our border and keeping the integrity of our legal immigration system, which I think should be the overarching goal. Question two, drug cartels in exchange for heroin and fentanyl smuggle back laundered money and weapons from the United States into Mexico, further empowering them to commit violent acts and produce more drugs. What steps need to be taken to stop the flow of cash and weapons into the hands of transnational criminal organizations? Fantastic question. There's a lot of areas that I could go in on this, but you asked specifically about stopping the flow of cash and weapons that have been laundered, right? And so with that, I'll go into a little bit on the anti-money laundering legislation that we're working on in the House Financial Services Committee. A few weeks ago when I did this, I said when you think of anti-money laundering, you should think drugs, you should think opiates. You're 100% right. These are cash transactions that then get laundered through our banking sector and then out of the country. And so what we're working on in the Financial Services Committee is putting a stop to that. Without getting too technical, a lot of times these companies or these criminal organizations set up shell companies in the United States and then use those shell companies to launder the money and get it out of the country. And so we're working on legislation that would put a stop to that. I think it's incredibly important that we do that because if you cut off the financial arms of these individuals, then that severely reduces their ability to inflict harm on our community. So great question, and I'll be focused very, very hard on the anti-money laundering component of financial services. And then last one, what legislation would you support to combat drug trafficking and the opiate crisis? So one, as I just talked about, the anti-money laundering legislation, but I think about this as the opiate market, the illegal drug market, think of it as a market similar to other markets. There's supply and demand. And if we're gonna hit this full on, I think we have to attack both sides of the equation. So on the supply side, we absolutely have to secure our southern border. We have to make sure that the illegal drugs that are entering, the fentanyl from China, that's being shipped into Mexico and coming up through our southern border and into our community, we have to shut that down. And so we need a secure border. That's why I support border fencing. That's why I support increased funding for Border Patrol and ICE, because we have to do whatever we can to shut the supply lines down. Full stop. On the demand side, that's a trickier question. Because you have to ask yourself, why is it that folks are getting into the drugs at all? In many cases, it's overprescription from legal drugs that then turn into an opiate addiction, where then they go to the street and get heroin. So we have to do what we can to encourage alternative forms of pain management in our medical community, and then also some of the work Ohio's done to cut down on the prescriptions themselves, I think is good work. So that's one element of the demand. Then we also need treatment facilities to prevent people from getting into the cycle of addiction to begin with. So once you're in the addiction cycle, it's incredibly hard to come out. It's in many cases a lifelong journey that you never fully recover from. And so the goal should be, let's prevent folks from getting into it in the first place. And so I think there's a lot you can do on education and prevention. But my perspective has always been that one of the things that we absolutely should do and think about is the effect that economic hardship is having on folks who are getting into drug addiction. And so the stronger our economy, the more job opportunities, the less likely folks will be to turn to drugs in difficult situations. And so, again, to summarize all that, that was a lot. Have to cut the supply lines down, have to reduce demand, and I think fostering a strong economy is one way of doing that on top of prevention and treatment. So great series of questions. Thank you for asking. Hopefully this was helpful, and keep studying as you go. Great subject.